Welcome to the demonstration of the spring and mass system in the engineering physics lab. The experiment consists of two springs whose spring constants we don't know, and we will determine that using the formula that we just now discussed. T is 2 pi root of m by k, and once we determine the spring constant of these two springs, let them be k1 and k2. The idea of the experiment is that we will couple these two springs first in series and then in parallel and try to estimate the effective spring constant of the series configuration and the parallel configuration, and check what is the accuracy of the theoretical formula that we discussed, namely K series is K1 K2 by K1 plus K2 and K parallel is K1 plus K2. So this is the overall plan of the experiment. Let us start doing the experiment now. So for the first part of the experiment, we will take a spring whose spring constant is not known to us. Let this be K1. I will attach the spring to the hook. Please look carefully that I am attaching it to the central hook here, and this is a hanger whose mass is 50 grams, and this hanger will be used by us to load or put additional weights on it. The way to introduce the load is there's a narrow constriction here. You have to slide in the mass here and let it go, and you can add as much mass as you want. But the idea is that the amount of mass should be such that it does not stretch excessively and touch the bottom of the table here, because that will be bad for the experiment. So we have to take some middle path. So here I have taken two additional loads, each of mass 50 grams. So the total load is 150 grams. So I will attach this mass here to the spring whose spring constant is K1, and I will set it into simple harmonic motion. As you know, to get good results and optimum results, the amplitude should not be too large. Further, the first few oscillations should always be ignored because they are transients, and we should start recording the oscillation after the first few oscillations. So let's do that. I am holding a stopwatch with which I will monitor the time period for 10 oscillations. As we know that in physics it's important to do averaging. So first I'll do it for 10 oscillations, divide by 10 to get time period for one oscillation. Similarly, then I'll again repeat the same thing for 20 oscillations, divide by 20 to get the time period for one oscillation, and similarly for 30 oscillations. And then I will work with the average quantity. So let's start the experiment. I'll just lift this mass a little bit and let it go. I'm ignoring the first few oscillations, then I start the stopwatch. 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I'm getting 7.03 seconds as the time period for 10 oscillations, which I will note down in the data sheet. And then I will again stop this and again reset the stopwatch. And as I told just now, I'll repeat it for 20 oscillations. Again, I'm ignoring the first few oscillations. (13.69 seconds for 20 oscillations. So like this, I'll again do it for 30 oscillations. So then, by dividing by 10, 20 and 30, I'll get the time period for one oscillation. Now this I will put into the formula. T is 2 pi root of m by k. So T square is equal to 4 pi square m by k square, m by k, and therefore k is equal to 4 pi square m by t square. Where for this T, I'll put the average value of T that I got from those three observations. So this will give us an idea of what is the spring constant for this spring K1. The same thing I'll repeat for K2, which I'm not going to demonstrate because it's exactly the same. No need to show that. So at the end of the exercise, I have K1 and K2. Now we'll go to the actual second part of the experiment, where we want to see what is the effective spring constant first in series and then in parallel. So I will first put K1. There is a S hook which is provided here. I'll use that S hook to attach the second spring K2. See how the two springs are now in series, and now I will put the mass, I'll attach the mass, and I will repeat the procedure that I did for the first part, namely calculate the time period for 10, 20 and 30 oscillations. So as you can see, the oscillations become slower. So let's start the measurement. .37 seconds for 10 oscillations. So this is expected from the formula. Also it is expected that it has to slow down. So this is perfect. So like this I will repeat it for 20 and 30 oscillations, which I am not showing here. So similarly I take the time period for one oscillation, I take the average of the three measurements, and using the same formula I extract the effective spring constant K series. This quantity now I will compare with the theoretical formula that we discussed a few minutes ago, namely K series is equal to K1 K2 by K1 plus K2. We already got K1 K2. We'll put those K1 K2 values and we'll get another number. So these two numbers will now compare. And this is basically the error. So this error, if it is small, that means we have performed the experiment perfectly, the measurements were correct. If the error is large, that means we may have made some mistake somewhere in the measurement of the time period, because this entire experiment runs on the accuracy of the time period. So this is the first part where the two springs are put in series. Now the same thing will repeat, but for parallel configuration. The idea is exactly the same, so I'll go a little bit fast. So for the second part of the experiment, what we have to do is we will attach the two springs to these two hooks that are provided here, and please look carefully that there is a additional scale which is provided, which is some mass is written, 21.85 grams is written. We'll come to it very soon. So what is the job of this scale? This scale will use as a tie rod. As you know, for parallel oscillation, the springs are independent oscillators. We need to couple the oscillations, right? So this is acting as a coupler or as a tie rod. So now if I attach the mass here, the masses, the two springs are basically coupled to each other. So this is the correct configuration in which we'll perform the parallel configuration experiment. The idea is exactly the same. Only thing, please be careful that for parallel configuration, the oscillation will be faster. So if you think it's becoming very fast and it is difficult to make a measurement, you can slow it down by putting some additional mass. So here I'm adding two more masses, that is 100 grams I'm adding. So now my total mass has become 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that is 250 grams. I'm performing the experiment with 250 grams. .91 seconds. So this is the time period for 10 oscillations. Similarly, I'll do it for 20 and 30 oscillations, divided by 10, 20 and 30 to get the time period for one oscillation. And with that average time period, I will extract the effective spring constant in parallel. And again, I will compare that answer with the answer that I got by adding the spring constants K1 and K2. So this brings us to an end of the demonstration of the spring and mass system.
Tabulate them for the spring constant experiment. As you can see, we'll first do the experiments for spring constant K1, and then we'll repeat the same method for this other spring constant K2. And then we will think of combining them first in series and then in parallel. That's the sequence that we will follow. So first we'll do it for the spring constant K1, and we'll take this in one of the springs that is given, and let that spring constant be K1. and we will attach the spring to the hook and attach the mass to the lower end of the spring with the help of a hanger. And to the hanger, we will attach the slotted weights. The slotted weights can be increased in multiples of 50 grams, and we can take adjust the mass according to our convenience. So we will take some optimal mass so that the time period of oscillation is something which is easy to measure and not very fast, so that because fast oscillations are difficult to measure with precision. So therefore, we will adjust the mass accordingly, and then we'll start give it a small vertical tug here to the spring and let it go, and it will start oscillating. And we'll measure the time period of first of 10 oscillations using a stopwatch, obviously. First of 10 oscillations, then 20, and then finally 30. So 10, 20, 30 oscillations, and from there we'll divide by 10, 20, and 30 to get the time period of one oscillation. And we will actually calculate T1 square from each of this time period, average time period we got, we will calculate T1 square. And from there, we can calculate the spring constant using this formula, that K1 is equal to 4 pi square M1 by T1 square. This is simply derived from the formula T is 2 pi root of M by K, as you can easily verify. We'll getting this formula K1 is equal to 4 pi square M1 by T1 square. So therefore, we will get three values of K1 corresponding to these three readings, and we can take the average of those three values to get the mean value of K1. Similarly, the same method will now repeat for the other spring with the spring constant K2, and by the same method, which I'm not going to repeat again, we'll get the mean value of K2. So now we are in a position where we both have K1 and K2, that is the mean value of K1 and K2. So now we are ready to go to the next part of the experiment. So now we want to see what will happen when we first combine these springs in series and then in parallel. So first, let us do the experiment in series. And so for that, we need to find the total mass that has been attached, which is nothing but the mass of the hanger plus the mass of the slotted weights. That's the total mass. And let us quickly see the diagram here. So as you can see that these are the mass of the, these are the springs, this is the external mass, and this external mass is kept on a hanger. So that mass of the hanger and total external mass is basically the total mass that has been attached for the series configuration. So now, as usual, we'll again do the experiment for 10, 20, and 30 oscillations. We'll divide by 10, 20, and 30 to get the time period of one oscillation. We'll square it, and again, we'll extract the effective spring constant by using the same formula that we discussed. So now Ks, S as in series, Ks is equal to 4 pi square Ms by Ts square. So we will get these three values of Ks. We can take the average of the three to get the mean value of Ks. Okay. So now we in this column we will actually calculate the effective series configuration spring constant by simply doing K1 K effective is equal to K1 K2 by K1 plus K2, which is the formula that we apply for springs in series. It is actually derived from 1 by K effective is equal to 1 by K1 plus 1 by K2. From there we are getting that formula. So we can use the formula to get K effective, and we can compare this value of K effective with the experimentally obtained value, which we called Ks here. And so therefore, if we take the difference of the two values, we'll get what is the error in the spring constant for the series configuration. So similarly, we'll now repeat the same methodology for the parallel configuration. The only thing that we have to remember is that for the parallel configuration, as you can see in this diagram, the two springs are kept in parallel, and to hold them, to attach a common mass which is attached to both the springs, you need another scale here. So that scale will also have a mass, which is to be added to the total mass of the external mass and the mass of the hanger. So that is written here explicitly. The total mass that you have to take is mass of the scale plus mass of the hanger plus mass of the slotted weight. So this mass of the scale, which is basically used to couple the motion of the two springs or attach them together, is basically the extra term that is you have to calculate here. So this is the mass, that the total mass for the parallel configuration. The methodology is exactly the same. We'll again repeat it for 10, 20, and 30 oscillations. We'll divide by 10, 20, 30 to get the time period for one oscillation. We'll square it, and then we'll use this formula to get the parallel configuration spring constant, Kp. So here in the bottom, we'll take the average of the three values to get the average value of the spring constant in parallel configuration. And now, as you know, that from the individual spring constants K1 and K2, the parallel spring coefficient is nothing but K1 plus K2. So we will use the already obtained values of K1 and K2 to get the theoretical value of parallel configuration Kp, which is K1 plus K2. And we'll take the difference of the value that we obtained here and the value that we obtained here to get the error for the parallel configuration. So thus, by the end of this experiment, we have obtained K1 and K2, that is the individual spring constants, and Ks and Kp, which is the spring constant in series and parallel configuration. Thank you.